Welcome to our Black Gay Diaspora podcast. I am your host, Erick. For this episode, I am joined by André Wade, State Director for Silver State Equality, Nevada's statewide LGBTQ+ civil rights organization. André leads legislative, policy, and government affairs work, as well as fundraising, political, and advocacy activities. In May 2018, he was one of Advocate magazine's Champions of Pride. The year before, André had an important role in the passage of Nevada's AB 99 bill, a state law that mandates certain agencies treat, quote, a child as having the gender with which the child identifies, end quote. In May 2023, André was featured in Modern Luxury Las Vegas magazine as one of the 15 most influential people. In that article, he talked about his role as Super Bowl host for the Community Affairs Committee and his book, 7 Ways to Disappear, the book within the book. I love that title. Which is, quote, a creatively insightful guide to the reinvention of self, end quote. There is so much more that I can tell you about André in this intro, but I think it's best if we hear it from him, who he is, what he does, and how he excels as a Black queer professional. Hi, André, and welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I was really glad during my time in Nevada, Henderson, a couple months ago that you took my call and that we were able to have an intro chat.
It was a nice outreach to get from you, especially with the work that you're doing and the folks that you have talked to over the years. And so to be included is an honor for me.
You're definitely a part of this great collection of people who are doing great work. I had been in Nevada at that time for about a month before it hit me, like, I'm not reaching out to find out who I can connect with here.
Well, here we are.
How is your week, your afternoon going so far, your day?
So a work day, so there's that. But I was able to sneak in some yoga, which I like to practice in the morning. It's post-Pride month, so things are a little less hectic.
How was your Pride month?
It was good. It was a little muted from other years, with everything that's going on. I think the climate and the temperature is a little different, but still out there being proud and expressing pride, especially since it's Juneteenth month as well.
Okay. You mentioned yoga, and that was something I did find out about you that intrigued me. You're also a yoga instructor, if I understood correctly.
I was certified. I don't teach at the moment, but I was certified back in 2017.
What sparked that?
I started practicing yoga in like 2001, maybe, when I was living in LA. From that very first class that a friend took me to, I knew nothing about yoga. I literally fell in love with it and have been practicing ever since. And as you're practicing, this idea of becoming a yoga instructor or going through the trainings come up. And so it's always something that had been in my mind. It was a goal. And so I never really thought I would teach, but to help, as we say, deepen our practice is what it was really good for. But I do think that I'll probably try to teach when I get a little older to people who are a little older as well.
A very dear friend of mine in Sweden, she manages one of the gym chains in Stockholm in Sweden. I think they're out of Norway. But anyway, I know she, within the last few months, also became a certified yoga instructor.
It's a lot to go through, but you learn a lot about the practice and yourself through the process.
If we could start with the present, I did watch and read the recent interview that you did for KTNV Las Vegas with Abel Garcia about Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo's decision to veto a gender-affirming care shield law. Can you tell us about that law?
Sure. A couple of years ago, the shield law started to crop up across the United States in a way to combat the gender-affirming care bans that were happening in certain states, because providers were providing care for those in states that there were bans. The patient was coming from another state where was legally available. And so in 2023, we tried to pass this law, and again in 2025, but it got vetoed twice. And essentially what it would do is to protect providers of gender-affirming care here in Nevada for those who are seeking care would have prohibited another state where there is a ban, let's say Texas or Arkansas or Tennessee, from coming after providers in Nevada for providing care for someone from those states. I think about 17 states have these shield laws, and the other states either have a ban on gender-affirming care or they're silent on them, as we call it. Yeah, we're just trying to really protect providers and then families and individuals seeking care from other states.
With it being vetoed, what happens next?
Gender-affirming care is legally available here in Nevada. It's covered by most insurance plans. And so there are those protections, but there's these constant threats that are existential for some and could become real. And so on this front, we have to figure out what the next step would actually be. I don't know if we'll try again in 2 years. If we have a different governor, I'm sure we would try, and the outcome would probably be different.
With the U.S. Supreme Court's holding up the Texas ban, does this mean like if somebody is coming from another state that they are protected if they are in Nevada?
I think you're talking about the Supreme Court case out of Tennessee.
Yeah, exactly.
And so technically they can still get care in Nevada. However, if the Tennessee Attorney General wanted to ask our governor or whomever to get records or information from a family from Tennessee on the care that they're being provided, then there aren't any protections by law. Our state officials could decide to not cooperate with the Attorney General in another state or whomever, but who knows what kind of legal battles would ensue. Yeah, people could technically still get the care here, but whether or not they themselves or the provider will be protected is another question.
Now, I know that didn't pass, but I know the Senate Bill 117 did pass, which requires the Department of Veterans Services to expand outreach and help to LGBT veterans and their families, which sounds like a good thing. Can you share what that is?
It's a bill that doesn't require a lot, but we know that since the Don't Ask, Don't Tell era, which is, I think, 1994 to 2011, there were LGBTQ plus service members who had less than honorable discharges. And since a lot of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policies were overturned, people still didn't necessarily know that they could request to have their benefits reinstated or have full benefits. The bill makes it so certain agencies out here would have to do enhanced, better work to make that information available to people. There's no cost involved to what's being done. It's just really promoting the information so people have better access to it. Yeah, and we supported the bill that Senator Shelley Cruz Crawford put forward, and she did all the heavy lifting, and we just supported where we could.
What else were you able to pass?
One thing that didn't require the signature of the governor, because it was what we call a resolution, was that a particular area out here in Las Vegas, many people who come down to Vegas and hang out at our LGBTQ plus bars where it's 8.5 Piranha, Gypsy, Quads, that area. We called the Froot Loop for decades, colloquially. Now it's recognized as a cultural designated area. In October, we're going to have like a little ceremony. And yeah, so that's something that was nice to see go through. That didn't require the governor's signature.
Now, we mentioned this is you being connected to Silver State Equality. Can you explain what is the history of Silver State Equality?
Silver State Equality is what we call an equality organization. There at some point was about 40 some odd what we call equality groups, statewide groups across the United States. Nevada didn't have one. And so the Equality California, who I technically work for, they put resources into Nevada to start Silver State Equality back in 2019. And so I've been with the organization since 2019, getting it off the ground and starting to do the work, working through legislative sessions, political cycles, and doing some grant programming as well.
Now, you said you've been with the organization since 2019. Is that the whole time as a state director?
as state director. So technically, there was someone before me for a few months before we really got things off the ground. But for all intents and purposes, I'm the first state director for civil state equality.
Now, you mentioned earlier being in Los Angeles. How long did you live in LA?
I was in LA from 99 to 05. So after I graduated from UNLV with my undergrad, I moved out to LA because I just wanted to really just start life and have some experiences. I started doing a little bit of modeling out here in Vegas. So when I moved out there, I continued to do a little bit, but also that's where I started my human services career.
Oh, you had a varied career, modeling, yoga, and of course, your advocacy work. Yeah.
I have always been the kind of person that wanted to do and still wants to do a lot of different things, no matter what. I have a lot of different interests, and I just would rather explore those interests rather than just think about them. The other career I like to think about is my retail career and working in music stores for 7 years that really shaped my music knowledge and experiences and who I am. So that's really something that's also really core to who I am, just the music aspect of things and working in those music stores and meeting a lot of different people, really growing through these really interesting characters that I would have never otherwise known or been friends with.
You mean like working within where you worked at or just in a professional environment as far as the music industry?
You come across people who are in the punk scene, the ska scene, the techno scene, the hip hop, R&B scene, all these things. And we converge in the stores, and you take those co-worker relationships out socially, and you hang out in each other's spaces. And so it was just a really interesting, eye-opening experience that I always enjoyed and took with me as someone who kind of values the differences that, we have in our neighborhoods and in our communities and in our friendships.
Something I never thought about, like those days when we used to go music shopping, how groups of people come together that wouldn't necessarily interact or be in the same space. And that's an opportunity to learn from others.
Yeah, I just told some friends through text message, so I don't know how it translated, but there's an incident out here in Vegas where there's this music festival, and a buddy of mine who I actually met working at Tower Records, he was there, and he lives in Hawaii. He is Portuguese and Chinese, but basically Hawaiian. But he was at this event, out here in Vegas, and there was a skinhead that was causing a lot of ruckus, and they wound up kicking him out, and all this stuff is on social media. Mm-hmm. And I was telling some friends of mine, I was like, there's these Nazi skinheads and there's traditional skinheads. Traditional skinheads are not racist. They're not about that life. I met some traditional skinheads on the ska music end of things, hung out with them, learned about them. And there was this black dude who was a traditional skinhead. Again, not the Nazis, not the racist part and all that stuff. That is something that I experienced and learned back when I was growing up through the music store experiences. But again, that's just something I would have never experienced and would have never known. There's just these little caveats, these nuances to who we are as people that I think are important to understand, that we don't make assumptions and just kind of, learn from.
I learned something new just now because I hear the word skinhead. It's like, well, me as a black person, let's walk the other way.
Yeah. These Nazis have co-opted a lot of groups, meanings, symbols. They really dilute and bastardize a lot of things. And so that's just one facet of it.
Now, I know you have 25 years of experience working like in human services and advocacy in the public and private sectors. What is your educational background?
So I have a bachelor's in psychology with a minor in English. I have a master's in public administration with a concentration in nonprofit management and a certificate in policy advocacy. I studied French for quite a few years in high school, college, and at a French school called Alliance Française. And right now I'm studying Spanish, but that's the sort of formal education that I've had.
Some similarities there. I studied French 2 years in high school, 2 years in college. know more Spanish these days through education and just being from Arizona and living in LA for years. I say for me, one of the best ways that helped me to, I'm not 100% fluent, but to learn Spanish is sit me next to somebody's abuela who doesn't speak English, because then I have no choice but to speak Spanish.
Exactly. It opens up a whole nother world when you learn a different language. It's amazing.
Of course, English is my first language, but it's like certain love songs, I like them better in Spanish. There's a way that it sounds in Spanish that I think I connect to more emotionally when I've heard the song.
My partner's Mexican, Spanish as his first language, English as a second language. His parents only speak Spanish, and we went to Shakira concert, and there's a couple of Shakira songs I know a lot of Shakira songs, but I have a favorite. And listening to it now that I know Spanish a lot more than I did years ago, I'm like, oh, this song is hitting differently. Like, I actually kind of understand what she's saying. So it's been a lot of fun.
Now, I remember in our intro call, you are a native Nevadan, which I don't know why that would surprise me. I guess it's kind of like here in LA where we just assume most of the people, myself included, didn't grow up here. But I remember when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, of course there's people born and raised in Las Vegas.
Yeah, there's a few of us running around, a lot more now that we have a couple of generations that are starting to be here. But I would always equate it to, especially for people in California or Southern California, like just growing up in the valley where you just have neighborhoods with strip malls. But the only thing is we had the strip literally going down through our community. And I used to think being in Vegas was boring. And that's why I wanted to live other places like LA. And when I moved to DC, but they say UNLV stands for You'll Never Leave Vegas. And so I guess it's true because I left twice and came back twice.
Okay.
Vegas has really grown on me as I've grown up. And right now, I couldn't really imagine living somewhere else because we have so much going on here. On the entertainment side, the shopping, the restaurants, we have a lot more things to offer than when I was growing up.
And then with you being in Nevada, like I had done a little bit of research and I found out that since it was founded in 1905, it's had a small Black population. Has your family been there the whole time?
My parents came here separately without knowing each other in the 60s during the last wave of the Great Migration. For the most part, my family is newer to Las Vegas.
Something you were saying earlier, too, about how Vegas is a city like any other city. I had been there a few times before I actually went off the Strip, and that was through a friend here who lived there in the late 90s. And actually, the friends that I was visiting when I reached out to you, I know them through him. And when I got off the Strip finally, I was like, oh, this is a proper city. And it reminds me in a lot of ways of Phoenix, of Arizona, but it has a completely different feel to it, of course.
Yeah, and we have a rich Black history. We always called it the Mississippi of the West. It was very much segregated. And so when people came here from the South, they plopped down and we were hoping for a different experience, but realized it was pretty much more or less the same. I, like as an example, grew up in what we call North Las Vegas. I used my grandmother's address, who lived in an all-Black neighborhood, to go to school even further away because while we had it, if you were in a Black neighborhood, or depending on what neighborhood you were in, you were bused to school, except for during sixth grade. Then they put sixth grade centers in Black neighborhoods. So you'd have that 1 year where you wouldn't have to be bused. And so that was a way that they were trying to address the sort of segregation and racism that was happening in the education system. But you saw it in the casinos and hotels with the entertainment aspect of things, where performers would have to go through different doors and couldn't enter through the main areas, just like the other white performers. So a lot of that history is there as well.
We are in the U.S. and it's not necessarily unique to Nevada or Las Vegas.
Exactly. Exactly. It's baked in.
I know for me, I don't know if you get this. Like, I remember when I first moved to LA and I said, oh, I'm from Arizona, born and raised. And people kind of look at me Like, oh, I didn't know there were Black people in Arizona.
We sometimes get that, yeah. Or when people actually move there, they realize how few Black people it is. So, yeah.
Which I didn't realize for myself when I left Arizona, because that was my normal until I started to go back. And then I realized, like, oh, okay, that explains a lot about my not ignorance, but maybe naivete when I went to cities with larger Black populations.
Yeah, I remember when one of my brothers, who's in the military, I think he got stationed in Atlanta, but he was just like, oh my God, I've never seen so many Black people in one place before. He was like, it was just overwhelming just to be like that, because that is the complete opposite experience that you would have in Vegas, especially at that time.
I'll just share this quickly. I have, when I moved here, because Arizona didn't have a Black radio station. Again, that was my normal. I didn't realize that until I moved to LA. I thought a song playing, and I was with a friend, thankfully not a group. And I said, oh, what's this song? I really like it. He's like, it's a commercial for a hair. And I said, oh, okay. I did not know you had songs with a soulful R&B beat to them for.
Yeah.
So where'd you come from? Where'd you crawl out of?
Oh, that's funny.
Well, you are in the state. The slogan is what happens here stays here. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, what is life like for an openly queer person?
Overall, I'd have to say it's good, but it's also going to depend on your gender identity and your race and your ability to navigate, like maybe from a socioeconomic standpoint. But by and large, we have some really great laws on the books here in Nevada, which kind of shields us from the things that happen at the national level sometimes. So overall, it's a great, accepting place to be. Probably about the early 2000s is when the hotel industry started to cater towards LGBTQ plus people, and they would have specific outreach and marketing and programs and events set up, which I think really helped with getting these properties up to speed with interacting with queer people. At the same time, in human services and nonprofits, medical providers, we were doing these trainings to providers on LGBTQ plus competencies. And I was doing at one point recruitment for foster and adoptive parents. And part of the community that I was reaching out to was the LGBTQ plus community. So all that to say that for decades, been really intentional with just trying to make things better for LGBTQ plus people, where they could access resources somewhere or services, hopefully have better experiences because the people on the other side would have some sense of training or awareness. It's not without any upsets that we still have with hate crimes and just bad actors out there. But by and large, we do pretty good.
You said bad actors?
Yeah, people just out in the community who just want to act out towards queer people. You might hear incidents that occur.
My assumption with hate crimes specifically against queer people was that we were out of areas where we, air quotes, shouldn't have been. And then when a very good friend of mine years ago was gay bash in West Hollywood, and then I started to do my own research, and that's when I found out a lot of, like you said, those types of people, they come to where they can find us to cause that kind of harm. But I mean, it's really good that, again, organizations like Silver State and what you're doing are, doing your part to educate, help us to protect ourselves at least.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. We had a federal grant from the Department of Justice that was focused on hate crimes awareness and prevention and education. But unfortunately, that grant was canceled this year, but we were hoping to do a lot more work in that space.
Now, I know you're not in tourism or hospitality, but say for somebody who is queer, and wants to come to Vegas for the first time, because I know the Strip is there, because you mentioned the Froot Loop, and I've been there maybe years ago, if I'm thinking of the right part of town.
And for the most part, the hotels are welcoming and inclusive. There is a queer motel downtown. I think it's called the Bent Inn. At one point, they closed for a little bit. I think they're back open. We have the Froot Loop where we have a few businesses in that area, like bars and clubs. And there's actually a bookstore called Get Booked there that has its own history. And there's a couple other bars in areas outside of the Froot Loop. The criticism about our scene is that it's just not that vibrant. Like, people would think that our queer nightlife scene would be popping because we're Las Vegas and we have the Strip. But there's this idea that because the Strip and its clubs and restaurants and bars have been so inclusive over the years that people feel comfortable just being in these other mainstream spaces, that they don't necessarily feel like they have to go to a gay bar to feel comfortable. So that's like one theory that people have. I'm sure there's others.
Thank you for that. And that might have been mine too, and why that question came up. Just this assumption like, oh, it's Vegas.
Yeah. We have some folks out there that are putting on some great events, nice things in different bars and clubs, and at some of the pool parties, especially now since it's summer. So yeah, we're still building community out there.
Connecting it back to Silver State and maybe connected to nightlife in Vegas for the LGBTQ plus community, what are some fundraising events that you may be a part of?
We just had one, our Equality Luncheon, which was on June 25th. And we actually had someone there who has been on your show before, George Johnson, the author of All Boys Aren't Blue. I did an interview with him at our luncheon, which was designed to educate the community on the outcome of the legislative session. And the tie-in with George was that we had a bill that we tried to get passed into law, but it was vetoed, that would make it difficult for book bans to happen. And since his book is like the most banned book in the U.S., wanted to make that tie-in there. But we do have our annual Silver State Equality Awards coming up this November 12th. One of our honorees will be Lisa Vanderpump. So people are excited about that. I am as well. And then a former mayor and someone who's part of the hospitality industry at the CEO philanthropic level is Jan Jones Blackhurst. We're going to honor her. And then lastly, one of our the LGBTQ plus Center of Southern Nevada that we call the Center. We're going to honor them for their work as well.
And you are or were also connected to HRC, the Human Rights Campaign?
I started volunteering with them back in 2008. And I got connected to a program that they had called All Children, All Families, or they still have it, All Children, All Families, that aims to help agencies better recruit LGBTQ plus foster and adoptive parents, and then make the foster care experience better for LGBTQ plus youth. So I was on that advisory program for a while, in addition to the volunteering I was doing. And also I used to work at the LGBTQ plus Center for a few years back in the day as well.
What sparked of course, being a part of the community, but what sparked your interest in advocacy on a professional level?
My interest in doing this type of work really came from being bullied in school, which I think changed the trajectory of my life and how I saw myself and how I interacted with other people. I really didn't know what it was I wanted to do exactly. I just knew I wanted to help people. And that got me into human services, providing like case management for various youth and families. It just became this mission that I just wanted to be a helper. It's how I frame things. And my career has evolved from direct services to program management to policy, national policy and statewide policy on different social issues. And so it's been this evolution, but at the core, it's just been wanting to help someone. I'm working on self-publishing a book, and I tell this little story about how in 6th grade, we had this project where we got to create our own little book, like a physical book made out of cardboard, and you put wallpaper wrapping around it to decorate it. And it had this little story. It was called The Fish Meeting. And it was about these fish who were in a bowl, and they were upset and protesting because their owner, the little kid, wasn't cleaning their fish bowl. And so they were advocating for themselves to have their fish bowl cleaned. And I remember as I was trying to put this book together and the concept, I still have this book on my shelf, and I just came across and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about advocacy since I was in the 6th grade.
So will this be for adults or for children?
Oh, it'll be for adults. It's a collection of my writings I've done in advocacy throughout the years. So I'm putting a collection of those things together, and I'm going to self-publish it. But I'm going to include that little anecdote in there.
I didn't get a chance to read it before this call, but it is on my list. Your book, 7 Ways to Disappear, the book within the book. This will be your second time publishing something?
Yes. The 7 Ways to Disappear is a short work of fiction. It's part of a larger novel that I haven't yet finished, but that book lives within the larger novel. That's why it's called The Book Within the Book. Okay. And it outlines these 7 ways that we metaphysically, literally, and theoretically disappear from our lives, either through having this desire to like move away and like start life over and kind of disappearing from people, or disappearing into your vices like drugs and alcohol, disappearing by not showing up as your true self and just kind of hiding behind a mask. But again, it's a work of fiction, but that is something that I self-published because coming out of the pandemic, had a writing group and we just wanted to like write, but I also just wanted to have a sense of accomplishment. So I just decided to pull out that piece and self-publish it, see if I can encourage people to be advocates and help provide some insight into people who want to be advocates about what it means to do the work and how to use writing to advocate on behalf of issues that you care about.
It ties in with the recent interview I had. It was my last episode, Anthony Green, playwright, saying maybe me coming from a personal place, the ways that I not challenged but encouraged myself to speak more, to get outside of an expected way of living.
Some people get it. Some people don't really understand like where I'm coming from with it, but we all have thoughts of disappearing. The novel that it's coming out of has to do with these 4 friends that are living in LA around September 11th, who, when September 11th happens, they find their own way in which they want to like disappear from life, because even though that incident was so far removed distance-wise with them being in LA and it happening in New York, I remember living in LA at the time and September 11th having a profound impact on us. And there were some people who were struggling a lot more with it because they, in my mind, didn't necessarily have a good foundation, or they were having struggles with relationships. Because of that incident, they were really just thinking about life and what it meant for them. And some people can handle it and some people can't. And if we don't have a stable footing, there are these incidents that can happen that will cause us to want to disappear, or anything, however you want to frame it. Mm. That is where it's coming from. It's more of like a cautionary tale, if anything. It's really important just to kind of check ourselves every once in a while.
Have a community, but not only have it, stay connected to it, whatever that community is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Us as queer people, the ways that we find ways to create family, knowing what family means on a level that is beyond blood relations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Expanding like what it means to be in a relationship with someone. It doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. Having a best friend or your cousin or whomever it is, we have these relationships. We're in partnership with people. And if we have an understanding that the concept of relationship is a lot broader than what we give credit to, that we could really probably have a better sense of well-being if we have that understanding.
seems like women talk about that more. Like, yeah, if one wants or believes that's part of their path to have a romantic relationship, but we still need our network, or one person can't give you everything.
Yeah, I remember coming across the concept of like your partner can't be everything to you. Your best friend can't be everything to you. So you go to certain people for certain things, either for emotional support, to talk about certain topics, to do certain things. Knowing who's in your circle and what they mean to you and who they are is important, and not to put all your eggs into that one basket, because it has nothing to do with the basket or with your friend. It just means that that's not what they're there for in your life. And you have to figure out who else fits that need.
You know, like say me living here in LA, the assumption when people come to visit family or friends is that I'm hanging around on Hollywood Boulevard all the time. That's the last thing I want to do. I live here. I wonder if there's an assumption with you living and being from Vegas that you're always on the Strip. And I bring that up to ask, like, when you're not, doing what you're doing in your professional life, how do you unwind?
So I actually am the person who's from Vegas. I am 50. I'm still on the streets. And so I do hang out on the Strip and downtown, and I'm out and about. So I don't necessarily fit the mold. I love experiences, and that's kind of me and my partner's theme. So we like to just do things together, try new restaurants, bars, going to shows. He's in retail, and so he knows people who work in clubs and restaurants. And so we go and we get taken care of, or they'll tell us about an event. Like we were just at a Shakira concert, and I'm thinking he's like going the wrong way for the bathroom. But what he was doing was looking to see if he knew anyone that is working in the concession stand. As we were leaving, he wound up seeing a buddy of his. But that's the kind of world in which that we navigate our social lives, that he kind of just knows a lot of people in that space, and mine on the nonprofit space. Okay. So we go to a lot of like galas and different nonprofit events. So that's kind of shapes our social life. And then I'm a reader. So I like to read, I like to write, I like to practice yoga and exercise. Now I'm technically supposed to be formally starting to study French again. I like to stay busy, but it's also a way for me to relax. I find relaxation in doing things that I want to do. It's hard for me to sit around thinking about what I could, should, or want to do when I know I just need to do it. And it's the doing that makes me feel really happy and excited and motivated for the future. And so it's just up to me as to how I want to spend my time. So by the time a year comes, like I can say, well, I worked here to get to this point in my life, whether it's trying to meet a goal or get better at a language.
Okay. And I also read that you travel. Do you have any favorite destinations that you go to regularly?
Just like restaurants, we tend to do a lot of one-offs because we're trying to explore these different places, have few repeats. But I've been to Paris 3 times. I'm going to do the south of France, but I'll probably spend a week in Paris. I really like that space. I've been to Mexico City a few times, looking to go back and check that place out. One of my favorite cities in Mexico is San Miguel de Allende. I've been there a few times. It's this colonial cobblestone, beautiful small town, beautiful and unique. So I love that spot. I need to get to some spots in Africa that are queer friendly, of course. Like I would love to go to Ghana or Nigeria, even maybe South Africa, but I just got to find a place that makes sense for, good old fashioned safety.
Well, I've been to Cape Town twice. Most recently, I was there for our summer, their winter. Definitely have some recommendations if you guys go.
Oh, good. I'll reach out because I definitely want to know what's up.
Then you mentioned Mexico City. I'm actually leaving for Colombia in a couple of weeks, but part of my plan as far as more travel was to go to Mexico City, because every time I mention it, people are like, oh, you have to go to Mexico City. So
good. Yeah, you should. And I got to get to Colombia. So you'll have to let me know what's up with them.
My friends here were meeting up. I'll be there first. We had a plan years ago, the three of us, that we would travel and find love. And so, yeah, years later, we're traveling internationally. We're all going to meet up there. So very much looking forward to it.
And still finding love?
I am.
There you go.
You know what? That's not true. I am so focused on my career right now, which is not a bad thing, but I have been reminded recently that that is a part of life too. So don't use that as an excuse not to be open to that.
Yeah, I'm looking to be a nomad one day, so I'm going to have to get some tips from you.
Okay, yeah, I'm still learning, but definitely I could share what I know up to this point. I really enjoyed finding out about you, the articles that I found out about you, the work that you're doing. So I'm really thankful that, again, you agreed to come onto this platform and share who you are and what you do.
I appreciate it. It's a great conversation, and happy to talk to someone who has similar interests and the work that you're doing, interviewing a lot of people. It's an opportunity to discover folks out there who are in the diaspora. So I appreciate the work that you're doing.
I always like to end with asking if you have any final thoughts or insights.
I think my final thoughts, this has been an incredibly difficult year for all of us. We just ended Pride, but despite everything that's going on, I do think that finding community is going to be really important, embracing the community that you've already found. Even though it's a little cliche, I think keeping the joy in order is also important, but also keeping our finances in order, because if we have our finances in order, there's a certain freedom there. Be aware of the moment that we're in, but know that there are people fighting for better days ahead.
And I would say you're one of those people, so thank you. Where can we reach out and connect with you on social media?
I am on Instagram, Andre_IN_Vegas. You can get in touch with Silver State Equality by searching for Silver State Equality on your basic social medias, Instagram and Facebook. Oh, and Blue Sky. I guess we're on Blue Sky now. And I'm also on LinkedIn under André Wade.